On today's show, the Cleveland Cavaliers return from the All-Star break with a win in Brooklyn. Plus, Evan Mobley thinks he's going to be one of the top players in the NBA in a very short time. Plus, Dean Wade returning tonight against the New York Knicks. We'll talk about all that and so much more on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, of course, brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers on FanDuel can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, new customers with FanDuel can get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. The Cleveland Cavaliers return from the All-Star break with a 110-97 win here in Brooklyn over the Nets. The Cavs did not play very well, I thought, in the first half of this game. They were trailing at halftime 50-48. I should say, I didn't think they played well offensively. They missed a ton of shots. They looked like a team that was rusty, I think it's fair to say, in that first half. They did not look like the Cleveland Cavaliers that we've come to know on that end of the floor. Defensively, I don't have a problem with how they played at all at any point in this game. I thought they were really good from start to finish. And that is, I think, something that's probably a little bit more important than the offense firing on all cylinders in the first half in Brooklyn against a Nets team that not been good all year, but give them credit. They've been very good heading into the All-Star break. But I do think that the Cavs found their footing offensively, primarily in that third quarter. And then even in the early parts of the fourth quarter, I thought they were really good there too. So that I think no issue there. The fact that they played well defensively is a really, really good sign, because that is where this team does need to improve. That is the thing that when we talk about this team building habits and doing things the right way and how far they're going to be able to go this postseason, I think a lot of that is going to depend on how good they are defensively. I don't think they need to become a defensive juggernaut, certainly to get by whoever they see in the first round or the second round. But if this is going to be a team that's going to be Boston in the conference finals in late May, they're going to need to be better defensively than they have been to this point in the season. I thought that Thursday night was a good step in the right direction. I thought, too, that this really was a great game by both bigs. I thought both Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen were really, really good in this one. We'll talk more about Mobley coming up in a little bit on today's show and some comments that he made over the weekend at the All-Star game, and then followed up those comments Thursday night, too, with a response to, just kind of why he believes what he believes. And I think it's a good thing that he does that, but we will get to that in a little bit. Jarrett Allen had 20 rebounds in this game. Nick Claxton for Brooklyn played really hard. This was just kind of a game where it's just like, straight up not having a good time, bro. Like, that is what Nick Claxton was to me in this game, because Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley were both really, really good. So Evan finished the night with 18 points and 13 rebounds on 6 of 12 from the floor. He had the end one where they ran an inverted pick and roll. Sam Merrill set a screen for him, and then he hit Cam Johnson with a spin move, got under the rim, and dunked behind his head with his left hand. It was just like, that guy was not doing that a year ago. He has evolved so much offensively where he's making stuff like that look easy, and that's not something I'm not sure he was capable of doing in a game a year ago. Of course, he could do it, but I don't know that he would have been confident enough to do it when it actually counted, as opposed to doing it on the practice floor, because I think there is a really, really big difference there. And Jarrett Allen, he finished with 16 points, 20 rebounds, 8 of 9 shooting. He was fantastic. I thought he was really good on both ends of the floor, both offensively, defensively. I thought both these guys were great. And I thought that was a big reason why the Cavs were able to hold Brooklyn down offensively early on when the Cavs offense wasn't going. And this is an important thing, because not every single night, a lot of nights, but not every single night, the Cavs offense is going to be great. Most nights it will be. I think they've earned that with how good they've been through their first 54 games before Thursday night, they've proven that they can be a really great offense. And even on a night where I didn't think they were very good for most of the game offensively, they still scored 110 points and won a game by 13. But the fact that they were able to do this with defense is exactly what we need to see with them. And I think it starts with the bigs. Evan Mobley was really good on the interior. He had 3 block shots. Jarrett Allen, I thought, was really good. He did have to deal with a little bit of foul trouble. He had 4 fouls, but overall, the Cavs were able to keep Brooklyn scoring down because of that. And the defense is in a really good place right now. And that is what Cavs fans should want to hear. Because again, if this team is going to get to where they want to go to, they're going to have to be better defensively than they had been for the first, 60% of this season. And I think that Thursday night was another step in the right direction. They were not playing great basketball. And then it did seem to me, and no one talked about this after the game, and maybe this is something that should have been asked about, but Darius Garland got called for a traveling violation. And I did not think it was a travel. I thought it was a really crafty move. I didn't think that he moved his pivot foot. And then from that point on, it seemed like the Cavs sort of woke up at that point. It seemed like they went from, this is just, it's a Thursday night in Brooklyn. There's a game at home against the Knicks tomorrow. That's going to be a really big one. We're kind of looking ahead to that. And then that call, I think, kind of poked the bear, if you will. And then the Cavs go on a 20-2 run. This was a Cavalanche. I'm not the arbiter of Cavalanches, but I know one when I see one. And this was absolutely one because they started really playing better on defensively. They were on the defensive end. They were still playing really good before them, but I think they took it up another level. And then their offense sort of regressed to the mean. Like it improved to what they look like on an average night, as opposed to shooting 36% from the floor and 26% from 3 or whatever it was. Might have been worse than that in the first quarter. Might have been 34% from the floor in the first half. So they got better on both ends of the floor at that stretch in the third quarter. And then the game was sort of over after that. Brooklyn maybe had a chance because they closed the third quarter strong, the Nets did, but the Cavs, I think, played a little bit more of a part in that. They got sloppy in the last minute or so. And then the Cavs came out, and before the bench was emptied, the Cavs were winning this game by a bigger margin than the final score. And that 3-pointer that was hit at the very end mattered to some. So if you have the Cavs minus 13, I feel sorry for you. But the Cavs held Brooklyn before the reserves came in. Brooklyn had only scored 11 points in the fourth quarter, in the first 8 minutes of the fourth quarter. And I thought that, okay, this defense is here. This team is here. They're not going to let this one slip away. And this always felt like, even when the Cavs were losing this game, and I think they were down by as many as 7 in the game, in the second half. It never felt like a game that was, oh man, are the Cavs really going to fumble this one? Are the Cavs really going to do the thing where they talk about building habits? And Donovan Mitchell spoke at shoot around on Thursday about chasing perfection, which is a thing that's not actually achievable, but it's a good goal to set. And then come out and lose to the Brooklyn Nets that same night. It never felt like that. It just felt like a team that was trying to grasp their rhythm, and they couldn't really do that. And I don't think that's a crazy thing, because basketball players, if there's something that I've learned in the last, however many years of doing this, these guys are very routine oriented. They're very big they're creatures of habits. I asked Kenny Atkinson before the game on Thursday about what kind of habits want to be built between now and the postseason, because this team has talked about that so frequently throughout this year. It has come out of Donovan Mitchell's mouth so many times after wins, losses, blowouts, either way. Like, that has been a constant message. And one of the things that Kenny mentioned was the routine and getting into doing the right things over and over and over again. And he talked about how Donovan Mitchell is such a routine-oriented person that you could give Kenny Atkinson a time of day, and he could tell you where Donovan Mitchell most likely is, because he does things the right way. He does all of that stuff to take care of his body, to make sure that he's ready to go, to do everything that you need to do as an NBA player, as a star NBA player, to put yourself in the best position to win. And that was something that, just with them being creatures of habit and then doing those things and being in that routine. And then with the All-Star break, obviously you get out of your routine because they don't have practices. They hadn't played a game in 8 days. It was last Wednesday, the last time that we talked about an actual Cavs basketball game, and they got a little bit of time to sort of unplug from basketball, and that is a good thing. But when you put a plug in the wall, it's not always instant. You kind of have to think about it. Say you've got a PS5. When you turn on your PS5, you don't instantly just go into the middle of a game. Say you're playing 2K on PS5. You turn on PS5, it's not just, oh, it's already at the tip off. No, PS5's got to get going. It's got to load up. It's got to do all these things. I think that's what the first half was for the Cavs. I think they kind of needed to load up back into, playing in actual basketball games. And then once they did that, once they found their rhythm in the third quarter, not to say that this was some masterpiece of a game, but once they did that, it's like, okay, there was never really a doubt about this one. And I think this game played out exactly how we should have expected it to. They didn't play great early. They looked rusty. I think all of that is understandable. But once they got past that, they looked like the Cavs, and they looked really good throughout the night, because I do think that the rust is always something that is going to affect the offensive end of the floor more than the defensive end of the floor. And I think that is exactly what happened early in this game, but then the Cavs overcame it, and it was no big deal, and it really never was that big of a deal. It was just a bit of a rusty first half. So Evan Mobley was asked a question at All-Star Weekend. I loved the way he answered it, and I loved what he said on Thursday night about that. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. Yeah, that's right. Someone drops 50, you score big the next day with DoorDash. So it's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA season, that's this one, we're talking about it right now, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon until midnight. So you got a nice 12-hour window to save there. So here are a few ways that you can maybe save on that. Maybe, the day after a 50-point performance, who knows? Maybe it was a game out west. Maybe LeBron goes off for 50. I don't know if he's going to do that still at this point in his career, but hey, if he does, it's worth celebrating with this deal. So maybe you're up late watching that game. You wake up maybe a little late, don't have time to get together lunch to take to work, just fire up that Dash Pass. You can get up to $10 off, 50% off an order the next day. That's the best way to do it. Or maybe it's, you just have a late night craving and you think, you know what, someone had a great game last night. I could get something delivered and get 50% off. So what you need to do is sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50. That is NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. Also, make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Cavs daily newsletter, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. So Evan Mobley, obviously, during the break was at the All-Star game. He was a first-time All-Star, also won the Skills Challenge alongside Donovan Mitchell. And he was asked after the All-Star game on Sunday night, after his team was eliminated, who he thinks is going to be the best player 5 years from now in the NBA, in the world, I guess, because the best player in the world is always in the NBA. That's how basketball works. And he didn't really take a ton of time to think about it. Like, he was kind of ready to just say his answer. And he said either himself or Victor Wembanyama. And I think that was an answer that caught a lot of people maybe by surprise, because Evan is not somebody that I think loudly exudes confidence. I do think that his confidence has grown, particularly this year, but he is a very by nature quiet guy. I think one of the things the Cavs wish they could maybe change about him is that he might communicate a little bit better defensively. But the fact that he came out and said this, I thought was the best thing that Evan Mobley has done all year. And this has been a year where he has played himself into all NBA consideration. He was a very, very deserving all-star. With the news that came out on Thursday about Victor Wembanyama missing the rest of the regular season, he is one of the favorites to win Defensive Player of the Year now. He has accomplished a lot this year, I think, on a personal level. I think he has grown tremendously as a basketball player, and I think that he has become a much more confident person, at least in the dealings that the media has had with him. He seems like he has become more confident in speaking, and I think that you have seen him, if you watch the Cavs, I think you've seen him be a more confident basketball player. So when he's asked who he thinks is going to be the best player, and he says himself or Victor Wembanyama, and I think Victor Wembanyama is a very safe answer to give there, but saying yourself is never a safe answer. It's never an easy answer to give, unless you are somebody like LeBron James or, Michael Jordan back in the day, where those guys were sort of, 4 years into their career where Evan Mobley is now. Those guys were, there's no doubt that guy either is already the best player or will be the best player in the NBA. Evan was not that type of prospect. He was very highly touted, obviously very, very good, but he was not a once-in-a-generation type of prospect like those guys were. So I just think that it is different. So Evan was asked about that, and he said himself or Wemby. I asked him after the game on Thursday night, I basically said, why do you feel that way? Not saying that he's right, not saying that he's wrong, but why do you feel that way? And he said, I feel like if you don't believe in yourself, then how are you going to get there? I just have belief in myself. I think I have the capability. I have the size, the stature, the skill set. So why not believe in that? And I think that is one of the best things that Evan Mobley has said this year. And if Evan Mobley becomes that, and I don't know if he will, there's a long time to go before we get there. I think he has a lot of room left to grow. I think he's become a great player. I think he will probably be all NBA this year. But I don't know that he'll get there. We'll have to wait and see. But the fact that he believes that it's possible, and the fact that he is willing to come out and say, this is what I plan on being 5 years from now, is a really bold thing to do. But you don't get there without being bold. And that's why I think this is such a good thing for Evan to say. So then I followed up and I said, how close are you to that level right now? He said, I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of potential. So that's my goal right now. I'm not focused on getting there today, just every day, just take it day by day. And I thought the other interesting thing to come about this was how his teammates feel about Evan and these comments, because Donovan Mitchell has been somebody that has spoken really highly of Evan Mobley throughout this season, throughout the entire time Donovan has been in Cleveland. And I think that the Donovan Mitchell trade was not a bet on Donovan Mitchell. It was a bet on Evan Mobley. It was a bet that Evan Mobley in Donovan Mitchell's time here, before Donovan had to decide on a contract extension, which we know he has obviously signed, before that he would see enough potential in Evan Mobley that he could say, I can win a championship with that guy. And it was also a bet that the Cavs, by trading for Donovan Mitchell, were trading for Donovan Mitchell not to be their best player on a championship team, to be their second best player on a championship team behind Evan Mobley. Now, if Evan turns into this best player in the world in 5 years, then the Cavs are going to be a championship team. The team that we're watching right now might look a little bit different around the edges. Like there might be some different pieces and parts, but they're going to be great for a long time if that's who Evan Mobley becomes. So Donovan was asked what he thought of Evan's comments, and he said, hell yeah. And on top of that, like, if you don't believe in yourself, who will? You know what I'm saying? I firmly believe he'll be a top 5 player when he continues to get into his prime. He's close. He's got to continue to get better and better. He puts in the work. I think the everyday fan may not see it, but we see it. And at the end of the day, he's going to be up there. I have no doubt. I'm glad he said it. I've been trying to get him to speak on himself publicly. It's about damn time he finally says something. But now the biggest thing for him is to go out there and do it. He's got to go out there and do it every night, and I know he wants that. So I'm glad he said it, because like I said, it's about time to start talking about himself. And I do think that the Cavs, inside that locker room, inside that coaching staff, front office, everybody in that organization has a ton of confidence in Evan Mobley. And Evan Mobley has shown this year that confidence in himself. But this was by far the biggest, boldest example of him exuding that confidence on a national stage. I do think that this is something that as he continues to play well in tonight's game against the New York Knicks, who knows what it's going to look like. But if he has a good game in this game tonight, especially now with Victor Wembanyama being out for the rest of the season, I think that there are going to be a lot of eyes on Evan Mobley, and he deserves to have that. Like, he's somebody that I do think has played well enough this year to merit discussion around being an All-NBA player. I think right now he'd probably be on the second team All-NBA. If voting were today, I think that's where he would end up. Now, voting is not today, and there are still 27 games left for the Cavs to play. But he is playing, I think, and I've said this from the first game of the season against Toronto when he scored 25 points and looked great. To me, right now, Evan Mobley looks like a guy that basically he looks like Giannis a year before Giannis won his first MVP. And if that's who he is, Evan Mobley's going to be right about being one of, if not the best player in the NBA. And these comments are really just the start for him. The Cavs have had one game this season, one, with a full roster available. Against the Knicks on Friday night, might be number 2. We'll talk about that because Dean Wade going to be back. We're going to talk that on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. And there's no better place to get in on that action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Bet you feel pretty good if you have a ticket on Evan Mobley to win Defensive Player of the Year, because he was, last I checked, before the Victor Wembanyama news was announced on Thursday afternoon, Evan was like plus 2,400, plus 3,000, somewhere around there to win. And now he's not the odds-on favorite, but him and Jarrett Jackson are two of the favorites, the two favorites to win this award. So if you have a ticket, a long shot ticket, you're probably feeling really, really good about that. But if you don't, you can still place live bets throughout the game. You can bet on every single game that you want. You can bet on the other awards. You can bet on the awards now. There's still value to be had with Evan Mobley. And even if you miss opening tip-off of a game and you want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can do that because you can stay on the action with FanDuel. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. FanDuel's live betting feature keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether you're backing your team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. You never feel like you miss your chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you hit your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said at the top of the show, if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Cavs got 2 guys back on Thursday night. Ty Jerome played after a short absence due to a calf strain, and Isaac Okoro played for the first time since January 16th. He's obviously only played 5 games in the last 2+ months because of that shoulder injury. He actually hurt it the last time the Cavs were in Brooklyn. I believe it was December 13th when he jammed that right shoulder into then Brooklyn Nets player Ben Simmons, and he missed a considerable amount of time. And then when he came back, he did not look like himself. The shot looked rough. He just looked like a player that was not ready to be playing. So he basically played 5 games and then missed the next month. So Isaac Okoro was back. I thought he made his first shot. I thought it looked all right. We'll see how he continues to respond. I don't think that he's somebody that is, worth judging off of just how he looked in his first game back. He finished the night 2 of 4 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. He was a plus 16 in the 17 minutes that he played. But the story that I think, as far as injuries go, to come out of Thursday night is, and it's funny because Kenny Atkinson has been kind of, I don't want to say secretive because he's not as secretive as some previous coaches have been about injuries, but he doesn't always let you know who's going to play. And he just kind of came out and said in an answer about somebody else that Isaac Okoro was playing tonight. And then he said after his press conference too, to Chris Fedor and myself, that Ty Jerome would be playing tonight too. So then during an answer after the game, he was asked, I don't even remember what the question was. Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com asked him about Ty Jerome's rotation, because Ty came off the bench much earlier on Thursday night than we're used to seeing Ty come off the bench. And Kenny said, it was because of just the ball handling that they wanted to have a little bit more because Brooklyn pressures so much. And with Isaac Okoro being back, it changes how things look. And then he goes, when Dean Wade is back playing tomorrow, he just came out and said that Dean Wade is going to play on Friday against the New York Knicks. So barring an unsuspected pop-up on the injury report, and this, of course, can't happen. I don't know. I don't think the Cavs are planning on resting anybody in this game, but you never know. You never know. And this could mean that for just the second time this year, the Cavs have their full allotment of rotation players available, because until the middle of December, Max Strus had not played, and Isaac Okoro hurt his shoulder in the final game before Max Strus returned from his ankle injury. So they just narrowly missed each other. And then everybody was available on January 16th for the game in Oklahoma City, which obviously did not go well at all for the Cavs. And that was a game where it was a disaster. It was probably the worst game the Cavs have played all season long. And now things are different too, because the roster is different than it was back then. Karis LeVert is not here. George Niang is not here. DeAndre Hunter is here. So what the rotation looks like on Friday night, I think will be very interesting. And I don't think that Kenny is set on a certain rotation and everything looking a certain way right now. I think that there's going to be some give and take. I think there's going to be some trial and error, because ultimately, I think what Kenny has to do is figure out the best playoff rotation between now and the end of the regular season in April. And as I'm sitting here speaking, he has 27 games to do that. How many of those games is he going to have his full roster? I don't know. Injuries happen. They have happened to this Cavs team all year. You hope that there are no more injuries. You hope that no one gets injured in the entire NBA. You want everyone to be healthy. But what this looks like, what the Cavs rotation looks like, I think is going to be a very interesting thing, because I'm not sure that there's room in a postseason rotation for 11 guys. And 11 guys certainly deserve to play, because you look at the start, the core four. Let's start there. So you've got Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. Maybe Max Strus starts, maybe DeAndre Hunter starts, but that gets you to 6. Ty Jerome belongs in that rotation. That gets you to 7. Sam Merrill, that's 8. Isaac Okoro is 9. Dean Wade is 10. Craig Porter Jr. maybe belongs. Javonte Green, who we've not talked about as a guy that the Cavs are going to add on a buyout. He's another guy. Like you run out of space in the rotation. And I don't know if there's going to be room to play 11 guys, but you've got 11 guys that I think will be worthy of playing. And it's going to be something where they're going to have to make some tough decisions. Now, I do think that the trade for DeAndre Hunter, one of the maybe unintended side effects of it is that it made a decision for Kenny Atkinson easier. Like, I just don't know that George Niang was a fit in every postseason series. I think that there's some series where he could have made sense and he could have given the Cavs some good minutes. There are other series where I just don't know that the Cavs could have kept him on the floor without him being relentlessly attacked by opponents. That decision doesn't have to be made. And it's also a 2-for-1 swap where the rotation can shrink by a guy because they just have less players. That said, adding Javonte Green sort of expands that, because I do think he can be really useful, particularly on the defensive end of the floor. Maybe we'll talk more tomorrow, depending on how the game against the Knicks goes, on the Javonte Green addition. But overall, the Cavs are going to have, most likely, their full allotment of players against the Knicks. So how Kenny Atkinson manages this rotation, and of course, I would expect Dean Wade not to be on I would expect him to be on a minutes restriction. I would be surprised if it's like, hey, Dean, go play 30 minutes on Friday night. But how he manages things, how many guys play in the game against New York on Friday night, I think is one of the more fascinating things to watch this season. So that game will be a fun one. I'll be back after that tomorrow, right here on Locked On Cavs. I have a flight from New York to Cleveland first thing in the morning, and then, 2 games in 2 days, 2 different cities. No idea why we could not just have Cavs and Knicks play in New York. Everybody's already here. The Knicks played Thursday night at home. The Cavs played in Brooklyn Thursday, but instead both teams are flying to Cleveland Thursday night. So, of course, that's how the NBA works. But I will be back talking about that one with you. So thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell. I'll be back tomorrow.